Powered by Riverside.
Try to keep it to real estate and tennis because we know that's all that exists in the world. Today I have a very special guest, and I've been like thinking all day, how do I introduce this man? But I'm just gonna give it to you straight. This guy is the COO of Corcoran, which stands for badass. All right, stands for badass. But everybody, I've got Gary Malin. You know, I thought for years it was Malin. I gotta be honest.
Malin, you know what? That's what they called me in Michigan, but it's Malin.
But it's Malin.
Malin.
Malin. Everybody, let's welcome Gary Malin from Corcoran.
I do need to take exception with one thing before we start. You said real estate, tennis. Where's the golf?
Sorry about that. I know nothing about golf.
All right, but you know, you should know a little bit about your guests, right? You know, come on.
I do know that you love golf.
I do.
I mean, like, what's your handicap? What's your handicap?
I am an 11 handicap golfer.
An 11 handicap golf. I don't even know what that means. Like, what would you say is like the line of like, if you're not better than this, you suck? Like,
well,
suck.
Why I love golf is the handicap system actually makes golf fun. Because whether I'm playing with someone who's a 5 handicap, a 10 handicap, or a 20 handicap, all the shots all get accounted for in your handicap. So it actually levels the playing field and you have a lot of fun. I always tell people, golf to me is all about having fun with your friends and colleagues and people you enjoy spending time with. And, you know, you go out there, you gamble a little bit, you listen to some music, you have a few drinks here and there, you laugh. You get to know people in a way that you otherwise wouldn't get to know them. But when the day is done, it's not about being serious, for me at least. It's about having fun with the people I enjoy spending time with. And I always say, listen, just play fast. You don't have to be great, just play fast.
Just keep up with me.
Just keep it moving, right? No one wants to play 5 hours of golf.
That's true. So it doesn't matter how good you are, as long as like you shoot and keep going.
Yeah, just have fun, enjoy yourself, don't take yourself too seriously, and don't slow up the group.
That was 3 rules. It's just the 3 rules of playing golf. You want to play golf with me? These are the 3 rules. So it's not like tennis,
and laugh.
right? Because you can't
But
play
let's
tennis
throw a little
with someone.
laughter in there.
But if people suck in tennis, like you can't really play tennis with someone who sucks. Like if you're decent, you don't want to play tennis with someone.
You know, I used to play a lot of tennis as a kid, and I get that. It's a completely different sport because your skill to their skill. You're playing against somebody, so it definitely makes it different. You're not playing against them in that competitive nature where you're hitting a ball back and forth over the net. You're just playing golf and you're hitting the ball. So it's really a matter of you don't feel like, well, it is a competition, but it's not the same type of competition. So I get in tennis, you're always looking to play with people that are somewhat comparable to one another because then your matches are better, your rallies are better, the competitiveness is great. You don't want to be killing someone out on the field. But a good golfer and a bad golfer, as I said, the handicap system fixed that.
Like you can still, if you're a good golfer and you're playing with a bad golfer, you can still do business with that person.
100%. I always tell my wife, I love playing golf for every reason but golf. Right? It's first and foremost, you get to spend time with people, you get to know who they are, you get to know what makes them tick.
Yeah, because there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of downtime.
And you just talk, and you're in beautiful settings, you know, most times absolutely gorgeous weather, and it's just like a nice, relaxing atmosphere to just get to know someone without like the intensity of like sitting down for a meeting per se. You're walking, you're playing golf, you have some other people. It's a fun day to really get to know someone and see what they're all about.
You don't want to play golf with someone? Like why do you not want to play golf with someone? Like what could someone do where you're like, I don't want
to play with a cheater.
Yeah.
That will
People
cut me
cheat.
out. I do not like anyone that cheats in golf. I think that's a bad thing. And someone who takes themselves so seriously that they can't enjoy the day, right? If you're playing well, you're playing well. If you're playing poorly, you're playing poorly. But if the only reason you're there to play golf, what? Well,
so if you don't drink, I don't really want to play with you.
Well, but, you know, it's swing oil, as we like to call it.
With swing oil, I like that.
Yeah, it gets you all lubed up. You know, you stop thinking, you go out there and you have some fun, you enjoy yourself.
Better after a few drinks, right?
Yeah, of course you stop. Listen, golf is a lot between the ears. You get more mental in the game, and I think that people that I don't enjoy playing with are just they're so intense about it that they miss the reason to be there, which is actually, spend time with the people you love and care about and want to get to know.
Do you think you could? The last golf question. Do you think you could get me good at golf?
Listen, I
Like,
think
how
you're
long
an
would it take
athlete.
for you to get me respectable?
Well, we'd have to get you some good clothes. We'd have
Yeah,
to
oh,
get
it's
you
clothing's first.
you got to look good. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
have you come out in cargo shorts and a cutoff. That'd be a
That's
problem.
true. I gotta
You
look
know,
at
you
the
Forest Hill guys, I don't know what's going on over there these days.
Trust me, don't take clothing advice from the
We'll get you
Forest
some
Hillers.
clubs, we'll get you some lessons, and we'll get
Yeah.
you out there, and I'm sure
Can I
you'd be
wear the
great.
hat? Can I wear that
Bucket hat?
yeah,
In.
the bucket hat? Yeah.
You would look great. I'll get you a Corcoran bucket hat. I'll pay for it.
Yes. Love it. Done. I'm holding you to it. I'm holding you to it. So let's start from the beginning, all right?
Okay.
So, look, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're like the real estate guru of New York City, right? I mean, like, I dare come up with a question about New York City real estate that you don't have the answer to.
Or at least I'll fake the answer.
You'll fake it better than anyone else. You'll fake it easily better than anyone else. So let's just start and kind of let everyone know, because my 3 listeners are wondering, who are you, right? Who's Gary Mallin? I mean, okay, they can go, they can Google you, but let's start. What was your first job in New York City? Like, what? Give us your how.
Well,
How'd
I
you
went to
become
law
yourself?
school. So
Say it
my
again?
father and my grandfather were both lawyers.
Okay.
My dad felt like I should go to law school, not necessarily to be a lawyer, but it teaches you how to think, which it was really great for. And I also get to spend 3 years down in New Orleans having a little bit of fun. You could only imagine New Orleans a nice place to go live for 3 years. So I got out of law school. I practiced law for 5 years. I was a tax and trust and estates attorney, so not the most exciting law in the world, but business oriented, complex situations, trying to figure all those things out. And along the way, my college roommate was Andrew Heiberger, who founded City Habitats way back in the day, who you know. And he had a tax problem that really shouldn't have been a tax problem, so his accountants didn't really set it
You
up
had like a
properly.
business tax problem, or
Basically, independent contractors were classified as employees, and they shouldn't have been. So essentially, I went through the motions of understanding why that was the case, what happened, filed, a motion to get the thing reconsidered. And long story short, we settled it for very little money whatsoever. And essentially, that
this is
enabled.
when? Like, how long ago is this?
I mean, I started working for City Habitats in 1998. So this is probably like 95, 96, give or take, somewhere in that general vicinity. And essentially, from that point going forward, I was really talking with him consistently, just trying to understand the business, understand what he was trying to accomplish, how to set up the company from a structural standpoint. And at a certain point, it's like, you kind of feel like you're running the business with me from the outside. Why don't you quit being a lawyer and come in here and work with me? And it was just, a perfect opportunity to work with someone that I had a lot of respect for, someone that I spent a lot of time with, obviously, as my roommate in college. And we got along really well, and we sort of had similar skills but different skills, so we could bring 2 things to the table. And it was just a great idea for me to like exit stage left and start a new career. And this is my 28th year in the residential brokerage business, which is kind of crazy. So that was the beginning. And then in 2004, City Habitats was sold to what was then Sandant. And that was under the Corcoran umbrella. We were sister companies back then. And so I got the opportunity then to learn and work with Pam and learn a tremendous amount from her. And then we eventually merged City Habitats into Corcoran in 2020. So since then, Corcoran and City Habitats have been one company, and it's been a hell of a ride since then. And that was COVID time. So we literally merged the company in January of 2020. And so it began.
Unbelievable. And now, now it's kind of, look, I hear you telling me these stories, and I'm like, wow, like I remember all of these things.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, wow. And now we're, Corcoran, most people, now Corcoran and Compass have merged.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? That's
Listen,
that's
I think
crazy.
I think size, I think scale, I think data, I think technology, I think about providing services to agents, I think about all the opportunities that are going to exist for all of us within this organization to thrive and grow. And like we, meaning me and you, when we were working for Corcoran under Anywhere, we always had a holding company, and we worked with all these other brands underneath us, whether it was Sotheby's, Caldwell Banker, you name it. So yes, it's different in the sense that it's now CIH and Compass is another firm along the way. But the simple fact is, like, we as a company are going to be able to work and drive data and drive information that's going to be incredibly valuable to buyers, sellers, renters, and most importantly, our collective agent population is going to benefit from having these tools. I mean, I think if you saw like the open house report that I sent out earlier
I
this week,
did. Yeah.
and I've got a lot of amazing feedback like, wow, this is incredible data, this is incredible information. And now we have combined entities doing this. So as you have a seller who's questioning what's going on in the marketplace, all of a sudden, we're like, hey, let me show you what's going on there. Let me explain to you why maybe your listing isn't getting as much attention as this listing or this area, because I told you it might be a little priced above the marketplace, or maybe it's a step or two far away from a subway system. Whatever it is, you're going to have raw data. And I think once we merge the technologies and the collective strength and sort of, I guess, experience of this global entity, I think it's going to help everyone thrive and build their businesses, which is really the most important thing.
I mean, you got to figure power in numbers, right? So, just that alone, but like what percentage? So now Compass and Corcoran are united, right? So what percentage, let's talk nationally, of all real estate agents are we now?
I don't really know the percentages across the nation because you have to factor in our affiliate network and their footprint across the country. And then you obviously have to throw in the Sotheby's brands, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Gardens. You have all these amazing brands and all these amazing businesses. And I think that's the power, right? For you as an agent, now you have a referral base where people in your sphere of influence, you can help them almost anywhere. And you could have done that previously with Corcoran because we had a very huge relocation network. But now we have more companies under our umbrella. We're serving more parts of the neighbor or the country, should I say. And it's like we're going to be able to source the best people for our clients. Because I always say for any agent, if you're not tapping into your database and you're not using your sphere of influence to generate referrals, you're missing an amazing opportunity for passive income where it's really like, hey, you love me, client. I'm going to find someone that works as hard as I do for you in another marketplace because you don't know anyone. You're moving from here to California, moving here to, Chicago, wherever it might be.
Consumers, I don't even think consumers know that, right? I think most people, let's say you're living in New York and you're moving to Scottsdale or something, I think they're just like, oh God, I'm going to move to Scottsdale and, I'm just going to wing it, right? Where instead, like, hey, I have a New York City broker whom I love and trust and respect. Hey, let me talk to him or her and let's find someone for you in Scottsdale, right?
Yeah, listen, it comes down to an agent understanding what's at his or her disposal. And understanding, like, you don't want to be, a broker to these people. You want to be their broker. In order to be their broker, they need to be able to rely on you for all different sorts of things, not just the market that you're an expert in. Like, if they trust you, which they do, and they respect you, which they do, and they know that you can help them, that would be my first phone call if I was going to do something in a market that I was unaware of. I would call someone and say, hey, I know your sister company or I know your actual company has a footprint there. Can you help find someone? You know me, you know how I work, you know what's important to me. Can you make that connection? And I think there's so many great opportunities financially, but it requires an agent to actually mine his or her database, and it requires them to create systems that actually make people aware of all these different services. So sometimes people are so caught up working in their business every day, they forget to work on their business, and this is a way you can work on your business and make more money and be more valuable to your client.
I just referred a deal in Miami, actually, a condo deal. And it was a long-time client. I sold this woman's place years ago in Brooklyn. And it was great. She moved. She wanted to go back to Vegas. She went from Brooklyn to Vegas to Miami, back to Vegas. Go figure. And so she, the deal went through, and it was not easy selling her condo. Trust me. And I was involved. She kept calling me. What do I do? What do you think? I just want to get out of here. I coached her through it. Long story short, she just sent me a watch. I've never had like, she sent me a thank you so much, for all the help, and she sent me a watch.
It's funny. It's like right there what she did is something I talk to agents about all the time. Like when I ask a lot of people what business are we in, they're like, oh, we're in the real estate business, we're in the sales business. I'm like, no, we are in the hospitality business first and foremost. We have to treat customers like we have a hospitality
Family.
mindset.
Yeah.
And sending someone a handwritten note when a deal is done, not an email, not a text, a handwritten note thanking them for working with you, for trusting you in this process, letting you be a part of it. Send them a really nice gift. Let them know that like you appreciate the fact that they chose to work with you. They didn't have to work with you. And then the question is like, what are you going to do after the fact to ensure that this person stays in your sphere of influence? I think a lot of agents think I did a good job for so and so, so they're always going to refer me their business. Well, if you stop communicating with them because they think that that's the way it's going to work, ultimately they're going to meet someone else in their day to day life who's going to intervene in this relationship, and you're going to end up losing an opportunity. So it's the sale part is what you get paid for. Everything else, what you do thereafter, determines how successful your referral network becomes.
Yeah, it's interesting because Inman, said just like yesterday, I think they had an article about old school is coming back. So like the phone calls, the face-to-face meetings, and all that,
Yeah.
because like so many agents are just focused on their TikTok or their their digital media and marketing and so forth, their emails, right? But there's no personable experience anymore.
Yeah.
So
Listen,
they tell
I
them to
think
pick up the
people
phone.
like they take for technology has made things a lot easier for people to communicate. So they sort of forget that the old school things actually have a lot of meaning. Like if I sent you a really great email following up from something that I did with you or a text, or I sent you a handwritten note in the mail and it got to your home and you opened up the envelope, and you read it, you'd be like, wow, even though it's the same words, it means a lot different because I know this person put time, effort, and attention into this process. I always joke around when I talk at new agent training. I'm like, how much does a stamp cost? No one has a clue, right? They say forever, like jokingly, right? Because of the
Yeah,
forever
yeah.
stamp. I just think those small little moments in life that you can capture to differentiate yourself from other people will pay major dividends down the road.
Will make sense. Yeah, no, good advice. Great advice. So let's talk. Like, so much has happened in the real estate world in New York City. I mean, like, I don't even know where to begin. But let's. I mean, like crazy. You know what? I had like a tenant call me today. This guy has been hounding me for an apartment. He's like looking. He saw this one that doesn't exist, and he's like, it's like a $3,000, one bedroom or something, and he's really staying on top of it because he even opened up to me today. He's in a relationship and he wants to get out of the relationship and he needs an apartment to move into. You can't make this up, right? And he's he doesn't anyway. He can only afford a certain amount. Long story short, which is impossible by now, he can't find an apartment and they just don't exist, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is just less inventory and mass confusion. Like when you have these rent stabilized apartments that are on the market, there's like 100 people coming to see them,
Yeah.
right? So maybe the people who need them the most aren't even getting them. So let's just start right away with the rental market, okay? Obviously, everybody knows in June, I think it was June last year, the Fair Act came into play, and now there's no more broker fees in New York City, or the landlords have to hire
Let's
the
correct that.
yeah,
This is the problem. There are
yeah,
broker fees.
yeah, there are
And,
broker fees, yeah,
and I think that unfortunately the press has done a disservice to tenants trying to understand the marketplace. The Fair Act, if you just strip it down, simply said, if I hire you, I pay you, right? Whereas previously I might be the owner and hire you, but you can collect the money from the tenant. So the initial intent of the law was to just essentially say if a landlord hires you, they should pay you, right? That was the baseline of what the law was. But it never said, and still does not say, that if a landlord does not hire you and you do not advertise something publicly, because they call that a presumption that you represent the owner, even if you don't represent the owner, that I still have access to a lot of apartments that aren't being publicly marketed. Not every owner wants to pay a fee. Not every owner has the time, effort, or attention to hire somebody directly because they don't want to deal with it. So the public has done a disservice, or should I say the press has done a disservice. The fact is, you don't have to pay me or you, right, unless I actually transact with you. So I always tell people, like, look, I understand that you might not want to pay a fee, and I respect that. If you want to go do this process by yourself, by all means, go do it.
go for it, yeah.
But if you're not finding what you want, or you want to know of what's out there, are there better deals? Then if you work with me, I will uncover things that you cannot find on your own. And then you can decide, is this deal better than that deal? And I always explain to people, a lot of owners that weren't paying a broker previously, that pay a broker now, just simply increase their rent to cover the cost that they did not have before. So a tenant has gotten upset. Like I remember like 2 days after the law, the amount of emails I received from clients saying, why can't I pay the lower rent? I saw it last week when it was 52 and now it's 6,000. I want 52 and I'll pay you the fee. I'm like, yeah. I respect that. I understand that. I'm not here to argue, but unfortunately the law doesn't allow me to do that anymore. You should go talk to your city council member who voted for this law and express your dissatisfaction. But the problem is...
Dr. Che. Call it Che.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss him.
Sorry.
So, the problem is what these tenants don't understand is like most of them will live in this apartment for 2 to 3 years, most likely. So your original rent is now increased artificially because of the FAIR Act. So then next year when you get an increase, your increase is based on the artificial rent, and then again in the third year. So effectively you paid a commission 3 times, not once, and your increases were based upon a higher based rent. So tenants sort of have to understand that we're not here to harm the process. We're here to actually make the process better. And go work with an agent. Go see what he or she has to offer. Make an informed decision. If you find something better, you're better off with that. Or if you're coming in from a state where you only have 24 hours, to get in and get out and go back home before you find an apartment, how are you going to be able to navigate this process on your own? So I don't know why people devalue our services, but they love to devalue our services. I always say,
you gotta blame someone, right? Everyone. I mean, that's how I look at it.
Right, but I always joke around. Like when I was a lawyer, right? You could hire me as a lawyer to draft the will, right? And I'm going to understand all of your personal circumstances. I'm going to understand all the tax ramifications that are involved. I'm going to understand how to execute your desires to accomplish whatever it is. Or you can go hire, go buy a will on LegalZoom for $12, right? And that doesn't mean that document is good, bad, or indifferent. It just means there's always options in every industry to choose a full service versus a non-full service. Like I have an accountant. I'd rather work with a full accountant who can analyze things 10 different ways from Saturday and give me the best advice versus going on to TurboTax and filling out a tax return. But every person has the right to choose that. But the thing is, you should be able to comparison shop. And I think when you're making a decision about where you live, I'd rather work with an agent who can expose me to everything so I know whatever I'm doing is the right decision.
Someone who knows, right? Someone maybe who knows, someone who has connections. I mean, I will say, I've been doing this a long time too myself. And yeah. I look at it, I'm like, you know what the number one thing I bring to the table, and it's the truth. Sure, I know some things. I certainly don't know nearly as much as you. But I can tell you, I bring the people I know, right? I mean, and so many of them are just up here.
Yeah.
Right. But the people that I can call on the phone and make things happen, contractors, you name it, mortgage people, obviously, when they're, but like all of these people, and I can give you the best of the best, right? Where, there's such a value to that, in my opinion, especially when you're making your biggest investment you'll ever make. Even if it's a rental, it's your biggest payment you have every month. So, why wouldn't you trust a professional? Those people that go at it alone are crazy to me. They're crazy.
Well, they think that they're gaming the system that way. I mean, unfortunately, you talked about there's not a lot of rentals out there. There's not a tremendous amount of construction out there. You got to start with the 2019 rent laws that we as the industry knew would have intended consequences, but, the people who made these laws say they were unintended consequences. Whether it's all these rent stabilized apartments that are not being brought to the market because they need, a substantial amount of economic investment to bring them up to code. And then you can only make $15 more a month than you were making before. So people aren't bringing those to the market because they just simply can't get a return on those assets. Or you can't pay extra security, or a million different things have made the market far more expensive than before. Because before, if I wanted to pay a couple months rent security, because maybe I went through a medical problem, or went through a divorce, or something happened where, I had a temporary moment of time where my credit was bad, force you to buy an insurance policy effectively. All these costs have been added and added and added that started in 2019. Then they had good cause eviction, which essentially sounds like a nice thing, but it's like 5% plus the cost of living. So that adds to the expense because not every owner was trying to get 8, 9% increases every year. Then
Yeah.
you throw the Fair Act into it. Then you throw 421A was disbanded, and 485X comes out, and the wage laws make it impossible for people in certain circumstances to build more than 99 units. So when
Yeah.
you can't build supply, and you have all these pieces of legislation that I'm sure they're intended to solve a problem positively. But if you don't partner up in any part of life with people that understand what the consequences would be,
Yeah.
then you're ultimately going to probably have a result that's less than desired. And I think all of these things have made things more expensive, have made things more frustrating. And the people who get blamed are you, the broker,
Yeah.
or the owner for being greedy, when in fact the state and city have made certain legislation
They
that they're just,
handcuff us. Yeah.
and they're operating within those parameters. And
Yeah.
then they're being blamed for the fact that there's not a lot of construction and prices are getting higher and higher. Like, it's just unfortunate because people need to learn to, I always say, get to the middle. Let's all sit down. Let's all have a conversation. Let's figure out what the real goal is. And let's walk away both happy and unhappy because that means I got some stuff, you got some stuff, but no one pushed it too far. Because the tenants are the ones that are getting harmed in this case. And listen, a lot of small to mid-sized owners with these rent roll changes, some of them have lost their buildings. And that's completely and utterly unfortunate and never should have happened. So all of these things contribute to the affordability crisis here in New York City. And listen, I don't think there's anybody that would argue this is an issue that we should work together to fix. But
Yeah.
don't blame the broker. Don't blame the owner. They're not the ones creating these laws. It's the city and the state.
I mean, look. What do you think fixes it? I mean, if you're yeah.
Compromise fixes things. You
So it
have
would
to
be what? Like,
encourage.
what would be a great compromise? If
You
do you
undo
have
the
yeah.
you undo the 2019 rent laws. Even if you wanted to say you can renovate all of your apartments, which cost anywhere from 50 to 100 grand, let's just say, to bring them to code, and let's just say instead of keeping them at this rent that's like $700 from 20 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
you could bring them maybe to voucher limits. Find a solution that allows an owner to make a return on his or her investment, that allows people to find more affordable housing, to change the understanding of like tax incentives spur development. So if you don't give the right incentives, New York City is a very expensive place to live. Real estate's expensive, insurance is
Yeah.
expensive, real estate taxes are expensive, labor is expensive. You have to encourage people to take the risk to build. So there is a happy medium, but everyone in this world lately is very much on polar extremes. And this is my world, this is your world, and we're not willing to compromise. And I
Yeah,
think
that's
if
what
people would
sells.
sit down and compromise, you could find solutions that would actually be beneficial and be well received by everybody. But I feel like a lot of times politics is about optics lately. It's not about the real impact. And if we analyze the real impact, I think we could work together to figure out some really good solutions.
What do you think's going to happen? Like, what's
I
your
mean,
prediction?
unfortunately, right now, people are just too entrenched in their positions. And, what you hear what's going on in the city, they want to have rent freezes, they want to raise property taxes, as opposed to looking at the budget and saying, we have way too much spending, we need to cut our spending, we need to cut our way to sanity. It's like, no, let's spend more and let's villainize certain groups of people. So until people really can like say, listen, let's sit down and find a rational solution. Like in the end, everyone wants to let someone find a home they can feel happy in and secure in and comfortable in whatever part of the city you want to live in. But it requires compromise, and at the moment, it just doesn't feel like compromise is on the table.
I mean, I think they just need to spur development. I mean, we
Yeah, but
need
to spur
more.
development requires compromise. You need to have better tax incentives. Like, think about what happened during COVID to all of these rental owners and the people vacating their apartments in droves and rents dropping precipitously. And they had mortgages and staff and people to pay. And, like, they took a risk. Like, everyone just feels like that all they do is make money, make money, make money. But that's not true. Like, the people that got caught up in the 2019 rent laws that bought buildings based upon the prior law have had to turn back their buildings because they couldn't make any money to renovate the apartments. So until people are willing to analyze and say, look, what's happened isn't helping, let's figure out a way and let's bring all the right people to the table. Let's bring the developers. Let's bring the brokerage community. Let's bring the politicians. Let's bring the economists. Let's bring whatever. Let's bring the stuff to the table and find solutions that will be pro tenant, that'll ultimately add more value to the marketplace. Because without extra apartments, there's no more affordable apartments.
I mean, have they ever approached you for your help? Has the city or anyone ever come to you?
I mean, look, I've testified before the city council. I have
Yeah.
met with people, and they have a position, right? And they're going to defend their position. And unfortunately, perfect example is during the Fair Act. I asked a simple question, like I was sitting on the podium with, someone from Brown Harris Stevens and someone from Douglas Elliman, so that's some pretty large firms in New York City. I'm like, well, what brokers did you speak with to understand the ramifications of this
Yeah.
potential law? And like, we've spoken to plenty, you'll see later. And the see later was one independent broker who said he doesn't care, give or take. I wasn't there, but what someone told me, because I'm leaving the industry anyway. That's like not speaking to someone who is going to help the problem. Like
Yeah.
we're not like everyone makes it sound like we're all on different sides of the table. We all would love to find a way to help people find homes.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to approach it in a way that actually delivers that result.
It really makes no sense to me. I was at that hearing, and I think people were lied to, quite frankly, in my opinion, because I sat next to someone who was for the Fair Act, and she didn't even understand because and I said it, the same thing earlier, right? She's not going to get that apartment. It's not like this is not making more apartments more affordable for anyone. It's making it, I guess, cheaper for the person who gets it because they don't have to, on a rent stabilized apartment. But on how many rent stabilized apartments are there? I don't know, 10%, 5% of all inventory. So it's really, I don't really see what it did. What it did do, which is nice, is it made it very clear who works for who. I mean, I guess, transparency has never been more clear.
Well, listen, I'm all for listen, whether it's representation agreements or understanding who works for you. It's great. I just think it, generally in life, people look at the one-off bad actors in any different industry, which historically speaking is a very small percentage versus the good actors in an industry. And as opposed to legislating for the benefit of the good, they try to legislate against those few bad people, which then impacts things that were never broken to begin with. But when there is an affordability crisis and people are feeling constrained, what sounds good on paper, they're going to naturally, gravitate towards. And I can't blame someone for that, but the devil's in the details.
What do you mean? What do you mean, devils in the details?
Meaning, like the perfect example was the city in its own papers that filed said, we assume that rents will likely go up as a result of this bill, but they're arguing
They
for
did say that.
they did but they said that a tenant would rather pay his or her fee in monthly installments versus paying it up front because the barrier to entry is less. But the vast majority of tenants would rather be able to negotiate on their behalf. So, you can't say you're arguing about affordability, but admitting that if landlords pass this cost on to tenants, it costs more money. So that's my point of why sitting down and having conversations. I'm not saying we would have reached a different result because they wanted to do what they wanted to do. But if someone was willing to just listen to what the potential ramifications would be, it could have been different.
Yeah, I thought this law was going to make people move more. I mean, we'll see this summer. I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it obviously happened at a bad time for the community and tenants because it happened in the middle of high season. So there was a lot of confusion and frustration. It made it difficult for tenants to really understand. And if the world tells you you shouldn't pay a
For
fee,
tenants.
yeah, you shouldn't pay a fee, but you could have paid a fee and found a better apartment. It's sort of, they got into a bad news cycle.
Crazy. I mean, what's crazy is it's such a big law. I mean, it's such a change. So I
Well,
think
the
it
biggest
takes.
problem was like the law was bad enough in and of itself, but the minute they decided that if you advertise something, you can't charge a tenant a fee any longer because it's presumed you represent the owner, it made what was a very transparent, efficient system far less transparent and far less efficient because lots of opportunities for tenants have disappeared from the marketplace and you only will know about those if in fact you speak to an agent who could expose you to what potentially is out there. Whereas before, you could have seen tons of different apartments and understood what the market was. So, that aspect of adding it at the end, because that was not part of the original bill, made what was a bad bill worse.
Crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Do you
That's
think? Do you think there's a prayer that property taxes do go up? I mean, I know that's what he wants to do.
I mean, listen. From what I heard, Julie Medin basically say that the city council has no appetite for a property tax increase. So she is a good balance to what's going on in the mayor's office. Time will tell what's really going to happen, but she seems to understand the cost of living in New York to begin with are extremely high. And if you make it more and more difficult, more and more people will leave. I mean, look what's going on in California when they announced this 5%, forget exactly, to fund medical, Medicare, whatever they wanted to fund it for exactly, a wealth tax. And I don't think it's been approved at this point, but the last thing I read is like $1 trillion of net worth has left the state of California because of this law. So, it's, you got to understand, like at a certain point, people do have options to move places. Like I heard someone joke around and say that like, if these property taxes were to be approved, like the mayor would be the number one real estate agent in the state of Florida next year, jokingly, right? Because he'd be the cause of all these people leaving. So, time will tell how this all plays itself out. I'm hoping sanity and rationality prevail. We should be focusing on, the things that are going to help people versus just like he submits a record budget and then asks for, rating funds. Well, then why don't you cut expenses? Like as opposed to cutting expenses and looking at things, it's more where can I find, more ways to fund things that the city can't afford by taxing people. So it's a difficult situation, but it seems like, Julie Medin is a good, balance to some of the things that you hear out there.
It's like I keep telling myself this is normal. You know what I mean? Like everything that's going on, this is normal. This is just modern day America, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is in many instances people on opposite sides of the spectrum not wanting to communicate properly.
You think there's any trends in real estate right now? Like any like what kind of trends or tech or what kind of are there any like insider sort of tips that you can give?
I mean, look, it's from some of the things I'm seeing, like people, obviously if you have the means to live very, very well, you want to. But it seems like people aren't necessarily as focused on these massive homes versus, a home that feels like a home with all the necessary amenities and all the things that are important to you. I think, feeling a little more grounded, like you don't need a 20,000 square foot house for two people. You might want one, you could afford one, and you could certainly have one, but maybe you want something that just feels a little more intimate. I think, everyone has a different perspective, right? Like everyone.
You just downsized, didn't you? You just moved.
Yes, I left Long Island and I came back to the city because my daughter is here, work is here, friends are here.
Your daughter's like big time. Every time I turn around, your daughter.
I'm her biggest fan, of course. Me and my wife. She's doing amazing. She got an amazing work ethic. She's an incredibly smart, dynamic woman, and she's focused and she's committed, and she's made a great way for herself. She's been able to get on the Today Show and other platforms that NBC has, and she's just a natural at it. And when you see her, you just light up. So when I see everything, I have to promote it. So because
how does she come? So she promotes different products, right?
She works for a division of NBC where they review all sorts of products and write on them. And then, so what she's been able to do is she's been able to like talk about like all the holidays, whether it's Memorial Day sales, July 4th, Labor Day, President's Day, Valentine's Day, Amazon Prime Week, you name it. Just talk about where you can find deals and how to shop best and save money and take advantage of all these things. And listen, she writes about all these things and then she goes on, TV, and she's incredibly fluent in it and just makes me proud.
Oh, cool, man. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. That's great. That's huge.
Yeah.
Look,
fun to watch.
The what?
Fun to watch her. Listen, you want to see your kids, happy and thrive. And my son lives in Boston, works for a public company there. He's enjoying what he does. He's happy. All you want is your kids to happy and enjoy what they do.
Be happy and like you. Like to me, like I know, like if my kids want to hang with me, I feel good about, like if they want to hang,
Yeah.
like, hey, let's go hang. Like my daughter said this summer, she was supposed to go do something, and she's like, I'd rather like go on a vacation with you, and I'm
What
like,
could be better?
are you kidding me? She wants to hang with me. Let's go. Where are we going? Where are we going?
Let's go play some tennis, honey.
I love it because they're not going to be around. I messed up on that. I tried to get them good at tennis or like to play tennis. I don't know what I did. I
You
think
failed.
I was mean.
So they're into comedy now. They're on stage.
Yeah, no. My one daughter is pretty funny though. I got to tell you, one of them is she says it. She's like, I'm pretty funny, Dad. I think you are pretty funny, actually.
Listen, I love the confidence.
It's fun, dude. It's fun.
Great.
You know what?
That's awesome.
As long as you're having fun and have a good attitude, and I think good things will happen, right? Good things will happen when you put
good
out
energy makes things happen for sure.
Good energy makes things happen. Look, I don't want to take up more of your time because I know you're busy, but super appreciate having you come on.
I have a lot of respect for you. I've known you for a long time. I'm always happy to jump on and be available to you, my friend. You're a good man. And
you gotta teach me how to play golf.
Listen, I'll take you out. I'll take you out. We'll
Because
see
I
what
meet
happens.
your criteria.
Listen, you like to have fun first, and so you've already met the first hurdle.
I'm in. Yeah, I'm in.
Awesome. Well, listen, I thank you for inviting me. I love what you're doing. I love your energy. I love your commitment to it.
I need an outro, so I'm playing the intro song.
Powered by Riverside.
What?
My dad, superstar interior designer.
Did not know that.
Yeah. He's like one of the only heterosexual interior designers I think ever.
Well, there you go. That's how you found your way into real estate. It somehow bled into you in a different way.
I love it. See, look, it's very designed in my. I'm painting this room, no lie, red tomorrow.
I like Scotch right up there, baby.
That's it, baby. It's that time. It's almost 5. I can't wait.
The bell is rung.
I can't wait.
We'll go celebrate the U.S. women's hockey gold.
I'm going.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to watch the highlights now.
I can't wait. I'm gonna watch.
Hopefully the men get to play Canada in the final. That'd be great. That'd be a hell of a game. That Canada team is stacked.
I mean, if the men on the ice hockey, like the Canadians usually win. I felt bad for the women because honestly, they outplayed us. They should have won that game, and we got a little lucky at the end.
I think there's someone. I think I read something. They said that up until this game, the U.S. had only let up 1 goal during the entire Olympics, so they had a pretty stacked team themselves. But when you watch the Canadian men's team, watching Connor McDavid play golf, it's silly. Hockey, it's silly.
He's sick.
He's unbelievably. It is so much fun to watch that guy play hockey. It's unreal.
The Rangers need him. The Rangers.
Oh my God, the Rangers are so bad.
Hockey this year.
Oh, I don't know why Chris Drury's still around. It's an embarrassment.
So bad. What are they doing?
Oh, it's sad. He's destroyed the team, yet he's still running it.
We won the President's Cup. How do you go from President's Cup to like last place to
the basement?
Terrible. It's
It ain't
terrible.
good.
All right, that was a very long outro, but I don't care. It's
All
Gary
right.
Malin, and I love it. Thanks again, everyone. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.